Quick show of hands. How many people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Thank you very much. Who has not yet read the book? Good, there's some customers out there. I appreciate that. So anyway, I'm very honored to be here today. I haven't been to this event before, but I was here for the lunch yesterday and it was fantastic. You guys are doing a great job, great service. We need more entrepreneurs in this world because our schools are pumping out a bunch of snowflakes. And so for those who haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, quickly the story is, my name is Kiysosaki. It sounds like Kawasaki. In fact, Guy Kawasaki, who was of Apple fame, his father and I were his father and my father are good friends. We all grew up in Hawaii, but Guy was smart. He went to Stanford, and I didn't do so well in school. So anyway, but I grew up in Hawaii, a fourth generation Japanese American, which means I don't speak Japanese. So please don't come and practice on me. And also, my poor dad was the head of education for the state of Hawaii. He graduated from high school, top of his class, University of Hawaii in 2 years, went on to Stanford, Northwestern, and University of Chicago. And when I was in high school, he was a superintendent of education. But as they say, you know, the cobbler's kids have no shoes. The superintendent of education's son had no brains, and I kept flunking out of school. So I flunked out of high school twice because I can't write. And today I am the #1 best-selling author in the world. So fuck you, teachers. You know, it's not just you. I didn't ask permission to swear, but even though I was a complete screw-up in school, I had great SATs, and I had nominations to U.S. Naval Academy, U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in New York, Kings Point. And I took Kings Point for one reason. In New York, we're the highest paid graduates in the world. So back in 1969, when I graduated from Kings Point, my starting salary was about $120,000 a year. That's not much today, but back in 1969, that was like making about $1 million a year. So for a 21-year-old kid, making $120K a year in '69, that was a lot of money, most of it tax-free. So although I graduated at the bottom of my class from U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, we were trained to sail tankers, freighters, tugboats, and passenger liners. I drove tankers for Standard Oil. But the problem was the Vietnam War was still on. And most of you are too young to remember that, but it was a tough time. As the country is as divided as it is now. You know, you had people who were pro-war and anti-war and all this. And I didn't know, so I went down and I said I do. I converted my commission to Marine Lieutenant, U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant. I went to flight school in Pensacola, Florida. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. It was a smart decision. The problem is I went from making $120,000 a year to $2,400 a year, $200 a month. It was one of the hardest shocks I ever had, not having that, you know, having so much money as a kid, and then no money at all. So, but going to Vietnam was one of the best decisions I made. I flew the Huey gunship and the Cobra gunship. I loved what I did. I didn't come back with PTSD. I came back high as a kite, and I loved it. And I strongly recommend anybody who wants to serve their country. It's a good way to serve your country. So when I came back from Vietnam, unfortunately, my poor dad, this is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is my latest book. It's called Who Stole My Pension? It just came out now. The biggest financial crash is coming, very simply for one thing, is our pensions, the baby boomer pensions have been looted. I don't know the guys from California, the Communist Republic of California, but the CalPERS, their pension plan is $1 trillion underwater. Detroit went bankrupt. Dallas went bankrupt because Wall Street's ripping us off on our pensions. And my generation, the baby boom generation, were the first guys to have these 401ks. And when the defined benefit, which is the teachers' pensions, come down, the 401ks will be toast. So the reason I wrote this book, Who Stole My Pension, my co-author is an SEC attorney. And he is the biggest whistleblower in America today. Last year he made something like $34 million blowing the whistle on Wall Street, who've been looting the heck out of us. So that's why this book, Who Stole My Pension, is an important book, because this is a global crisis. Japan is toast. They're rioting in Paris right now because their pensions are toast. Chile, the pensions are toast. Australia, the pensions are toast. So for some people, this is bad news, but if you're an entrepreneur, it's good news. Because when markets crash, that's when you make most of your money. So it's really a good time, but unfortunately for my generation, the boomers, we're screwed. Because our schools teach us nothing about money. So the thing I say in this book here is this: my poor dad wasn't poor until he lost his job and his pension. So when I came back from Vietnam in 1973, my poor dad said, hey, what are you going to do? Now, I could go back to work for Standard Oil making $120K a year, or since I was a pilot, my classmates were all working for Standard, they went to fly for United Airlines. United Airlines pension was looted. The guys who were my friends who were pilots for United Airlines, they don't have a pension. So this is what's going on in America, but they'll never mention that on CNBC. So that's the challenge, and that's why you guys being here as entrepreneurs, smartest thing you can do. Because the last thing you want to do is be an employee when the next economy goes down. So anyway, congratulations for being here. Your education is the most important thing you can do. But please don't be like my poor dad. Because my poor dad always said to me the same thing, go to school, get a job, work hard, pay taxes, get out of debt, buy a house, and invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. The guys following that advice are going to get wiped out. That's why I wrote this book, but that's why 25 years ago I started Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Because my rich dad, who was my best friend's father, he had no education, but he was an entrepreneur. And he said to me, he says, Robert, if you follow your dad's advice, you'll wind up poor like him. So although what I'm saying is kind of bad news, is I still am a Marine. We've got to do something about this stuff. Because I don't know if you guys watched the debate last night. I wrote this book here also with a friend of mine, Donald Trump. I know some people hate him, some people love him, and some people don't give a shit. Thank you. This guy is an asshole. But he's a good guy. He is a man's man. My wife loves him. And he's a man's man. He talks, what he says to guys, he says in front of women too, which drives prissy women crazy, but my wife's been hanging around me for years. She doesn't give a shit, But I worked with the Donald for 8 years. We're supposed to write our third book. This is the second book. He's going to write the third book. And he says, I'm sorry, I'm running for president. So I said, good luck, I'll stand far away from you because someone's going to shoot you, Because the Donald is the Donald. There's no two Donalds. He is the Donald. He's an asshole. He says what he wants to say. I love him for that. I don't agree with him. But anyway, he's a great guy. The reason I mentioned this was last night I was watching the debates. I'm not Republican or Democrat, because I would vote for Donald if he was a Democrat. I think he really is one. And I wouldn't vote for Bernie if he was a Republican. Because I don't believe in socialism. There's a time and place for socialism. Socialism is very simply giving people fish. And the trouble with giving people fish, they don't ever get any better. They stay poor longer. But there's certain people that you need to give money to because they're so incompetent. So I'm not against socialism either. But last night, Bloomberg, who I wouldn't vote for him either, he's a good man. I have tremendous respect for Sanders. Man stands up for his convictions. That's all I ask. Last night, they attacked Bloomberg. Sanders and Buttigieg and all those guys are attacking him, Biden. And Bloomberg said one thing. I don't know if you guys saw it. He looked at that crowd of communists on that stage. I am a Marine, you know. I mean, and Bloomberg looked at the clowns on stage, and he just said, how many of you have started a business? Guess how many? And that's why our country's fucked up. So I'm honored to be with you guys here, the land of capitalism. I have nothing against socialism. If you're a real loser, somebody has to give you a fish. But we're the people that teach people to fish. And that's why I hang out with Donald, because he and I worked together for 8 years. I would do stages. He and I were at Moscone Center in San Francisco, Javits in New York, all the way across Australia. And all we talked about was capitalism, why we have to teach people about money. Because Donald and I had the same thing. We both had rich dads. My rich dad taught me to be an entrepreneur. His dad taught him to be an entrepreneur. That's the difference. So not right or wrong. You have to have both sides. All coins have three sides. You have heads, tails, and the edge of the coin. So you look at both sides. And you have communists and capitalists, and you stand on both sides. But I'm here, I'm happy to be here because it's about time we teach people to fish and not go to school and expect the government to take care of us. So thank you. I'm honored to be here, you guys here. Thank you. So I have a couple of slides real quick, some questions to ask you. So I started Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Rich Dad Company, I think in 1997, so it's how many, 23 years now. And our mission is to elevate the financial well-being of humanity. Again, I'm not Republican or Democrat. I have no beef with religions. I don't care if you're Buddhist, Jewish, Christian, knock yourself out. Atheist, I don't care. But every one of us uses money. Every one of us, rich or poor. So the question I have is this. So in 1996, I created this CashFlow board game. And I'll go into that a little bit later. How many people have played the CashFlow board game? Good, thank you, thank you, thank you. The way my rich dad taught me about getting rich was play Monopoly. You don't have to go to college to get rich. I mean, you have to go to college, you can be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant. But you don't need to go to school to be rich. Just play Monopoly. We all know the formula. 4 greenhouses, 1031, tax-deferred exchange, red hotel. That's it. You know, that's all I do. I own 7,000 rental units, 4 hotels, 4 golf courses, oil wells, and other businesses. I just play Monopoly. That's it. You don't have to go to college. Okay. So anyway, if they created this CashFlow board game, basically what the CashFlow board game is different than Monopoly is it has this attached to it. It's called a financial statement. It's what your banker asks for when you go and ask for a loan. And 99%, I mean, did you notice that, I don't know, Bloomberg doesn't want to show his financials and Trump will never show his financials. None of their fucking business. It's a private country. But this is what your banker wants to see. If you don't have a financial statement, they're going to ask for your FICO score, which means that how stupid are you at paying off your bills? It doesn't measure anything. But that's how screwed up our school system is. Elizabeth Warren is a school teacher. I don't know what Bernie does. But these guys don't have, I don't know if they have financial statements. And they want to run the country. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I think she was making like $20,000 a year, and now she's handing out $150,000 jobs because they're all communists. That's my tax money she's handing out there. It makes me nuts. Makes you guys happy? Doesn't make me happy. But anyway, this is what you want a financial statement for. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to know what a financial statement is. But most people don't have one. That's the problem. So in 1997, I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Today, it sold 41 million copies and still selling more today than ever before. And not bad for a kid who flunked out of high school twice, So I'll tell you, all Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a book on accounting. The most boring subject on planet Earth. I went for my MBA. I think I lasted 3 months. I'm sitting at the University of Hawaii, the MBA program. I was still flying for the Marine Corps. When I came back from Vietnam, I was stationed in Hawaii. I'm sitting in my accounting class, and my accounting class knew nothing. That SOB's head was so far up his butt, I don't know how he even I couldn't believe him. He's teaching the kids. They don't know what they're talking about. That's who's teaching our kids. People who have no idea what they're teaching. I remember at the academy, I was in my 3rd year of calculus. I cheated through calculus 1. Did pretty good. I cheated through calculus 2. Barely made it. I was so stupid I couldn't cheat through calculus 3. So I flunked out. But thank God I took a remedial and got back in. So I did graduate with a Bachelor of Science, which stands for BS. But anyway, so that's my whole thing. Again, I'm not against education. You're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, you've got to go to college. To be an entrepreneur, you don't really need them. You have to have a good accountant. So the question is, what does school teach you about money? Nah. What does school teach you about business? What does school teach you about investing? What does school teach you about taxes? What does school teach you about debt? And we'll wonder why we're screwed up. We're the biggest, I think, 2nd or 3rd largest debtor nation in the world right now. We're going down. You cannot print money and pay nothing on interest. It's financially impossible. The world has never been here before. So that's why I started writing and talking and doing all this stuff for years. Now there's a way out, and one of the ways out is to be an entrepreneur. But as you guys know, there's 5G coming up, there's AI, and there's also driverless trucks. 34% of most jobs today involve driving. So pretty soon Uber will not need drivers. Think about that. And yet our schools tell you, go to school and get a job. Are you kidding me? On top of that, our student loan debt is now bigger than the subprime mortgage debt. That's criminal. What our colleges are doing to our young people is criminal. Absolutely criminal. Just ripping them off. And what the Federal Reserve did after 2008 was criminal. They bailed out the rich. Not that I mind it, but anyway, that's criminal. But the only way they can get away with this stuff is because our schools are complicit. They're not teaching us anything about money. That's not a mistake. So the question is, why don't they teach us about money? So more they can take your money. If you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, lesson 1, Rich Dad's lesson was the rich don't work for money. Most guys miss that. But the good news is Rich Dad, Poor Dad is selling more and more all over the world, and I'm happy about that. So this is my next question. As entrepreneurs, we all operate via goals. So the question is, what's the difference between a family office versus a home office? How many people know? That's the most, as entrepreneurs, that's probably the most important question I can ask you today. What's the difference between a family office and a home office? See, most of us have home offices. When I first started off in business, I had a home office. I had to beg the IRS for the right to deduct my home office, which they didn't let me do it. But the reason you want a family office, the richest entrepreneurs in the world have family offices. So in other words, my little business operates as a bank, as a lending organization, as a contract company, and all this. My goal as a young entrepreneur starting out when I was about 25 years old was to get to the point where I had a family office. So my rich dad had a family office. It was an office that ran his multiple businesses. It ran his empire. My friends have family offices. Small business guys don't know what that is. So I'm going to leave you with something. I want you to think about that. One of the most important goals for an entrepreneur is to have a family office. We have multiple business, multiple assets, you have multiple operations. So with that said, I want to bring up the person that runs my family office. So Christina, would you please come up here, please? Please give her a big hand. So you have a mic?
I do.
Okay, oh good. So how many years have you been with me now?
Too long, can I say that? 15 years.
15 years.
Yep.
And when people call you a secretary, how
I get very angry. When someone calls me secretary, I feel like I'm back into the 40s and 50s, and I'm definitely not
Go
a
speak
secretary.
louder because they can't hear the back.
I'm not a secretary. It makes me very angry.
It's degrading. She runs my family office. We have 700 million in debt. You run that for me?
I do.
Do we lend money out?
Absolutely.
Do you negotiate contracts for me?
Every day.
Do you manage the teams?
Some of them, yes, I do, absolutely.
Yes. So the reason I bring Christina up here is if you're going to be entrepreneurs, dream high, dream big. We have 7,000 rental units, 5 hotels, 4 golf courses, oil wells, businesses. All of you have that potential, and that's why I'm happy to be here. So what Christina has here is the board game. So this is the CashFlow board game.
Right.
And I'll be going into this little board. This here is the board.
I don't know where the camera is. I don't know how close you can get to it.
Okay, but she'll be around. You guys can look at it.
There you go.
If you have children or you have no idea what accounting is, this is the most important game you can play. Play it time after again, because that's how you learn. It's only in school they punish you for making mistakes. The purpose of this game was to have you make mistakes with fake money. Well, the dollar is fake anyway. But anyway. But what our schools do is they punish you for making mistakes. Are you nuts? How does a baby learn to walk? They fall down. How does Tiger Woods become the greatest golfer on planet Earth in history? He hit more bad balls than I did. But those school teachers punish our kids for making mistakes. I flunked out of school twice because I can't write. All they did was inspire me. And that's the difference between an entrepreneur and an employee. Mistakes should make you smarter. But in schools punish you for making mistakes. That's the biggest mistake we have in this world today. There's nothing about money, but we're punished for making mistakes. And this here is it. This is really the real game board here. This is a financial statement.
I see that too.
The difference between monopoly and cash flow is you actually get to fill in a financial statement by hand. There's electronic versions of this game. I recommend playing it by hand. If you have young people, children, play this at home. It's better than Nintendo, whatever they play. So with that said, Christina is up here. She's going to be She's going to have a little thing up. Please come and take a look at the game. Because if you're going to have a family office, you're going to be doing what Christina does, which is always monitoring our financials. And that's where the game is played. The game is played here.
Sorry.
Wait. Here. That's the only place it's played. And if you have no idea what this is, I'm going to go into it in a little while. But this is the game. But our schools will never teach you that. So with that, where are you going to be set up?
I need to ask one of the event
Okay, you'll find
coordinators
out,
here,
yeah.
and you'll find me. I'm not hard to find.
Okay?
Perfect.
All right. Big hand for Christina,
Thank you.
please.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll go into what a financial is. Most of you read the book, you might know it. But this is the game here. There's multiple financial statements in accounting, so this is two of them. This is called a P&L, this is called a balance sheet, not that hard. There's also one more statement that's on the cash flow board game. It's called the statement of cash flow. It sits here. So the game is called cash flow. It's very simply this. The people that win the game have cash flow coming in. The people that lose have cash flow going out. Those cartoons running for office, all they know how to do is have cash flow go out. They jumped on Bloomberg because he's a multi-billionaire. Bloomberg wins because he has cash flow coming in. That's the only difference there is. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to control your cash flow. Financial IQ simply means, can you solve your financial problems? That's all it means. And our country today is what, $22 trillion in debt with $267 trillion in off-balance sheet liabilities. America is fucking bankrupt. And they want to put a socialist in office now. And I don't blame them, because America people are getting poorer and poorer and poorer. And the reason for that is very simply because there's a second book I wrote. This is the Cash Flow Quadrant. How many people read this book here? Good, thank you. For those that haven't, this is probably your most important book, because what our school systems are doing, this was Poor Dad here. Go to school, get a job, or become a doctor or a lawyer. This was Rich Dad here. B stands for big business, 500 employees or more. I have thousands of employees. That's the difference. This thing over here is inside investor. If you have a stock, bond, or a mutual fund, or an ETF, you're outside. If you're going to have a family office, you're going to be inside. And what they will tell you is inside investing is illegal. That's a bunch of crap. The best deals are all insider traded. I don't buy anything that's advertised. If it's advertised, it's too late. I always want to be on the inside. That's why I have a family office. That's why I have Christina. The other thing they don't teach you is this. So this is my poor dad. Go to school, get a job, or become a doctor or a lawyer. Guess who pays the highest taxes? These guys. So these guys here pay 40%, and this is worldwide, plus or minus a few points. So when you say to your child, go to school to get a job, you're going to be a tax mule. And what Bernie wants to do, and I think it's Bernie, free Medicare for all, free education for all, and who's going to pay for it? These guys. Not These guys. If you're a doctor or a lawyer or a small entrepreneur, small business person, 60% goes to taxes. That's why it's so hard to get ahead as a small entrepreneur. So one of the lessons my rich dad taught me is how do you minimize taxes? And so when I was coming out of the Marine Corps on this side here, he says, you want to get here, because what happens on taxes is these guys here pay 20%. That's why Trump and those in Bloomberg don't want to show their taxes, tax returns. And this one here is the best, 0. The more tax you pay, the lower your financial IQ, because the government's sucking it out of you. So the reason you want a financial education is how do you get here? So Trump and I write about it in our books, is we don't pay taxes. Legally. I don't want to go to jail and be somebody's boyfriend, you know what I mean? Marines don't like that stuff. Buttigieg likes it, I don't like it, you know what I mean? I got nothing wrong with that, you know what I mean? But so the reason, please go talk to Christina, go look at the game, because you want to make it onto this side. Now the good news is, I don't care if you're big or small, even if you're a small businessman, only like 200 employees, you can still do it this way. Especially if you work with real estate guys. Real estate guys pay the least taxes. That's why Trump won't show his tax returns. So that's what Rich Dad teaches. It's really simple. But if you look at this here, this is poor dad. This is rich dad. The reason you want to play the cash flow game is train your mind to look here. Here. These are E's and S's, small business guys. I suspect most of you are always thinking about how to make more money. What do I do? I'm going to earn more money. The trouble with that is if you look at a financial, tax. People who come into the equation from this side, your first line item expense is a tax. So it's hard to get ahead as a small businessman. So the difference is my rich dad taught me to look here. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I came here, and there's 4 different types of assets. Number 1 is a big business, because I don't have to pay that much in taxes. Next is real estate. Next are paper assets. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. And last are commodities. Gold, silver, oil, food. So I have 0 paper. I don't have any stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or ETFs, because I don't really want them. I'll pay tax on it. So this is where I'm focusing here. So if you go talk to Christina, look at the game. The purpose of the game is to get your mind out of your ass and into here. Or you'll just keep paying more taxes. And that's why Bloomberg doesn't want to show his tax returns. That's why Trump won't show his tax returns. Because the average person has no idea, how do these guys do this? And the reason they can do this is because they're B's and I's. They have family offices. They don't have home offices. The mindset is opposite in this whole thing here. A couple more things I'll show you, and then I'll be out of here. If you look at what happens to the average mom and pop, the cash flows in, it goes out taxes to the government. And that's what Bernie and those characters want to do. They want you to pay taxes so they can give the money, so they can give people fish rather than teach people to fish. Because those characters on stage, you got Pocahontas, oh my God. And Klobuchar. And Buttigieg is a good guy, but he looks like Alfred E. Newman. Every time I see him, I see Alfred E. Newman. I go, I'm going to give him money? Are you shitting me? All these guys want to do is give it to the government. And then they tell you to buy a house, because your house is an asset. If you look at where the cash is flowing, the asset, your house isn't an asset. Your house is the biggest liability there is, because the cash flows out and it goes to the bank. That's why the average American's in serious trouble. The next crash coming, it's going to be like 2008 all over again. It's an everything bubble. Housing's in a bubble, stocks are in a bubble, bonds are in a bubble, education's in a bubble, medicine's in a bubble. They keep dropping interest rates, they keep jacking everything up here. But you look at this here, a 401k is technically an asset. But if you look at the cash flowing, it's flowing straight to Wall Street. That's why there's no financial education. I wouldn't touch a 401k. Biggest scam ripoff I've ever seen. I don't touch ETFs. The reason I'm saying be an entrepreneur is you can beat them all day long as an entrepreneur, but you must understand tax, must understand cash flow, you must have a great team. I have the best accountants, attorneys, bookkeepers, lawyers, bankers, and things like that. Also on your payroll is a politician. Drives my accountant crazy. It's called campaign contributions. You must make contributions, especially if a real estate guy. That's the game. But those guys on stage, I'm not Republican or Democrat, but those guys on stage there, they don't know the game. Bernie has no idea. Buttigieg has no idea. Sanders definitely has no idea. Bloomberg knows the game. That's the difference. So really, that's it. It's all cash flow. They tell you to buy a house, goes out that way. They tell you to put your money in a 401k, goes to Wall Street, and then you'll pay taxes. So I don't care if you're a big entrepreneur or a small entrepreneur, your goal is to acquire assets and the cash flow goes this way, bypassing taxes. That's what the rich do. That's why Donald and I are friends. If you're paying taxes, you have a bad accountant. Because they should be telling you something else. So the main reason I buy real estate is because of accounting rules. Amortization, appreciation, depreciation. So what happens is if I make let's say I make $1 million here in my business. Immediately I bring it down here and I borrow $5 million. I borrow $5 million and put it into real estate. So my basis now is stepped up to $6 million, approximately. Then I depreciate this. The reason I have 7,000 rental units, or in the game of Monopoly, 7,000 little green houses and five red hotels, is because the tax law incentivizes me to invest in real estate. So the more money I make here, I've got to bring it down here as an inside investor. So I'm constantly buying more property, but I'm also acquiring more debt. And the debt goes in to acquire the asset, and then this goes this way. That's the game. That's the cash flow game. Or you can play the Bernie Sanders game, or the Buttigieg game, or Pocahontas' game, or worst of all, Obama's game. He's from Hawaii, I can say that. Or was it Kenya? I forget now. Anyway, where was he from? So the last thing is this, I'm coming out with another book called An Infinite Return. An infinite return means you have no money into the deal. The reason I have so much debt is after 1971, the US dollar became debt when President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. I was flying in Vietnam in '72. And that's when I realized gold was real money. See, gold is God's money. Gold and silver were here where the earth was formed, and gold and silver will be here when the earth is gone. I don't know about Bitcoin, but I think Bitcoin is better than the dollar. But if you're going to invest in it, you better know what you're doing, because it's a very treacherous game here. So, an infinite return is this here. I have zero money into the deal. So why do I make so much money? It goes back again to the financial statement. Here's the income statement. Here's the balance sheet. My biggest money maker is called IP, intellectual property. Zero investment. So when I create that cash flow game, it's intellectual property. It's patented. It's in 50 different languages. Every quarter they send me a check. Zero investment into it. When I write a book, like this book here, I think I make about $600,000 a month just from royalties coming off this book. Because I sell the book to a book publishing company, and they send me a check every month, every quarter. When I write a new book, like Who Stole My Pension, more money comes in. But it came out of my head. It's not real property, it's intellectual property. And all of you as entrepreneurs have that intellectual property in your head. But as my rich dad said to me, he says, you got this head, use it. Or as Einstein says, imagination is more important than knowledge. So the best thing about being entrepreneurs is you're on the right track. But hard work is punished by taxes. Don't do that. Okay? So the reason I talk and I go all over the world talking to people is this: we need more people like you. We need people who are courageous enough to start a business, to hire an employee. Oh my God. Sanders was saying that every employee should own part of a business. And the thing I would say as an entrepreneur, started many, many businesses. Will the employee participate in the upside, but will they participate in the losses? Answer is no. So as entrepreneurs, you all know that. When the profits go up, they tax you, but with the losses, you're still responsible. Your families are responsible. So that's why I'm honored to be here. You're, in my opinion, the bravest people on planet Earth, and our country needs more of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.